Welcome back to Byte-Sized Tech, where we like to dive deep into all the latest tech and gadgets.
Sounds fun.
It is, and we've got some really interesting sources today. We've got TLDR AI, and this kind of funny one from the Neuron called AI builds apps in 2 minutes flat.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty wild stuff happening.
That's crazy.
Yeah, wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
So our mission today is to figure out, what's real, what's hype, and how all this crazy tech could actually, impact all of us.
Yeah, like that 2-minute app thing. Sounds too good to be true.
Right. It's like 2 minutes. That's like barely enough time to make a cup of coffee.
I know, right?
But maybe AI runs on caffeine too. Who knows?
Maybe.
So this is just like, clickbait, or is there something real here?
Well, the 2-minute claim might be a little exaggerated, for effect.
Okay.
But there's definitely some truth to the underlying tech. Like the article also mentions Edify 3D.
Which converts text descriptions into 3D models in a similar time frame. So it's still in development.
Wow.
But the speed is pretty impressive.
So maybe not full-fledged apps in 2 minutes, but like generating 3D models that quickly is still pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I can see that being like a game changer for designers.
Definitely.
But speaking of rapid app development, the Neuron also mentions this thing called Lovable.
Lovable.
Yeah, Lovable. It's an AI coding assistant.
Oh, wow.
That claims to be a full-stack engineer.
Okay.
And I know enough about coding to know that full-stack is a pretty broad term.
Oh, it is. Like a full-stack engineer is someone who can basically handle every part of building an app. So like the front end, which is what users see,
right,
to the back end, which powers it all, like databases and security and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Lovable claims to do all of this based on like just simple instructions in plain English.
So like you could tell Lovable, hey, I need an app that does this thing, and it just like does it.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's crazy if it's true. It is pretty incredible. But, it is still early stage technology. So and there are definitely limitations. Like it's not going to replace human developers entirely anytime soon.
Right.
But the article does say that it's getting some good reviews.
Yeah, I even tried Lovable myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I managed to make like a Wordle clone in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly easy to use.
That's awesome.
Even for someone like me who's not really a coder. But it sounds like Lovable isn't the only AI coder out there.
Oh, definitely not. Like the article also mentioned that V0 from Vercel and Cursor have gotten some big updates.
Okay.
So V0 now offers full stack support and deployment.
Wow.
And Cursor is focused on working with existing code bases. So
interesting.
Yeah, so there's definitely some healthy competition going on.
Yeah, and that's always good for innovation. But let's switch gears a bit and talk about these chip wars that are happening.
Okay.
TLDR had an interesting article about Amazon investing like a whopping $4 billion.
What?
Yeah, $4 billion in Anthropic, which is a rival to OpenAI.
Yeah.
And the goal is to develop their own AI chips. So
oh, that's huge.
That's got to be a big deal, right?
It is. It's a massive deal. So right now, NVIDIA is basically the king of AI chips,
right? Especially
Especially with their GPUs. But everyone wants these chips.
Yeah.
And there just aren't enough to go around.
It's kind of like trying to get the newest gaming console, right?
Exactly.
Everything is sold out and you just keep hitting refresh, hoping to get lucky.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly like that.
So Amazon investing in Anthropic is like them trying to get in on that action, right?
Absolutely. They want to make their own AI chips.
Yes.
And maybe even challenge NVIDIA.
Wow.
Yeah. So this could really change the whole landscape of AI hardware.
So for our listeners who maybe aren't chip experts,
Yeah.
why should they care about who's making these AI chips? Like, what does it mean for them?
Well, think of it this way. Chips are the engine that power AI.
Okay.
So they determine how quickly AI models can be trained and used. And faster, more powerful chips mean we can have more sophisticated AI, faster development, and maybe even lower costs in the future.
So it's kind of like the difference between having like a basic smartphone processor and the latest super powerful one.
Yeah, a great analogy.
It affects what you can do with your phone and how smoothly it runs.
Exactly. So the type of AI chips being used has a huge impact on everything, from your AI assistant to the development of new AI technologies.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing to think about.
It is. Yeah, it really does. But let's maybe move back to the software side of things for a bit.
Okay.
TLDR-AI had this article about A2's Open Scholar.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a new language model made specifically for science research.
Yeah, I saw that one as like a super-powered research assistant, right?
Exactly. Like, imagine sifting through tons of scientific papers and giving you answers based on actual research.
That sounds incredibly useful.
It could be huge for scientists who spend hours and hours just reading research.
And while we're on the topic of like scientific breakthroughs, TLDR AI also mentioned this study about reversing gray hair.
Really?
Yeah, apparently it has something to do with like melanocyte stem cells getting stuck in hair follicles. So if scientists can figure out how to get them moving again, we might be able to say goodbye to those pesky grays.
Now, that's a discovery I think a lot of people would be interested in. But let's maybe dive into something a little more theoretical. This ongoing debate about AI scaling laws and the quest for AGI, artificial general intelligence, TLDR AI, even called it the bitter religion of AI.
Bitter religion.
Yeah.
That's a pretty catchy name. So for those of us who maybe aren't super deep in the AI world, what is this debate all about?
So it's basically about whether just making AI models bigger and giving them more data, what they call scaling, is enough to get to AGI, which is that like hypothetical AI that would have, human level intelligence. And OpenAI, the people behind ChatGPT, they seem to be like firmly in the scaling camp.
So it's like a bigger is better philosophy?
Yeah, in a way, but not everyone agrees with that. Like some researchers think that scaling alone isn't enough. They think we need like fundamental breakthroughs in how we understand intelligence itself.
Interesting.
So just giving it more data won't magically create AGI, according to them.
So it's like brute force scaling versus a more like nuanced scientific approach.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And the outcome of this debate will have a huge impact on the future of AI. But it's amazing to think about all the stuff we've talked about. AI building apps, new chips reversing gray hair, and maybe even getting to human-level intelligence.
It's like we're living in a science fiction novel.
I know, right? It makes you wonder what's next. Flying cars? Teleportation?
Who knows?
But the Neuron did have this article about something called zero-disk architecture. This idea that instead of storing data on hard drives or servers, everything would be stored in the cloud, like on Amazon's S3.
So our computers would just become obsolete.
That's kind of the vision, yeah.
Wow.
It's still early days, though.
Right.
But as cloud storage gets like faster and cheaper, it's a future we might be headed towards.
That's both amazing and a little bit scary. What about security? Wouldn't having all our data in the cloud make it easier to hack?
That's a valid concern, and companies like Amazon are definitely thinking about that.
Yeah.
As we use the cloud, more cybersecurity becomes even more important.
It's a lot to think about. We've covered so much today, from AI building apps to chip wars, the quest for AGI, gray hair disappearing, data in the cloud. It's like a roller coaster through the future of technology.
It really is. And it's important to remember the human side of all this, too. Like, the Neuron had this really powerful story about AI content moderators.
Yeah, those are the people who have to filter out all the bad stuff online, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they see some really disturbing things.
I can't even imagine.
And there was this lawsuit against Sama and Scale AI that highlighted the need for better support for these workers.
Yeah, we can't just celebrate all the cool new tech and forget about the people involved.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, using AI for good while also protecting the people involved.
Well said. So what does all this mean for our listeners? How can they, make sense of all this tech news and prepare for the future?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? How do we make sense of all this and get ready for a future that's changing so fast? I think a big part of it is staying informed.
Yeah.
And thinking critically about the information we see.
Absolutely.
And we need to have those conversations about the impact of all these technologies.
Yeah, I completely agree. We can't just ignore it and hope for the best. AI is here to stay, and it's going to change everything. So it's up to us to make sure it changes things for the better. Speaking of shaping the future, TLDR had a piece about Bluesky, that decentralized social media platform.
Right.
That's kind of getting popular as an alternative to Twitter, or X as they call it now.
Yeah, Bluesky has been making waves, especially with people who want more control over their online experience.
Yeah, and what's cool is that it's decentralized.
Yeah.
So it's not controlled by one single company.
Exactly. So it's like having your own little corner of the internet, but you can still connect with everyone else.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and I've heard some journalists are moving to Blisky
Uh-huh.
because they're worried about censorship on the bigger platforms.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's based on this idea of a federated network, kind of like email.
Okay.
So you can have your own Bluesky server and connect with others. So it's like a more diverse and maybe even more resilient online world. It's almost like going back to the early days of the internet when things felt more open.
Yeah, I like that. But let's bring it back to AI for a sec. Out of all the stuff we talked about today, was there anything that really surprised you or stood out?
You know, it's funny. With all this talk about all these crazy advancements, what really stuck with me was that story in the Neuron about that student who got in trouble for using AI-generated text from Grammarly in his homework.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. That caused quite a stir.
It did.
It really shows the challenges we're facing as AI becomes more common in our lives.
Yeah.
You know, especially in education.
Absolutely.
It makes you think about plagiarism, academic integrity, and what it even means to learn in this age of AI.
Exactly. Like if AI can write essays and code and even art, how do we teach and grade students? It's a big question that teachers and policymakers are dealing with right now.
It really is.
It shows that even though AI has all this potential, we need to be careful about the unintended consequences too.
Yeah, well said. We've covered a lot today, from AI building apps to the chip wars to AGI to the future of data storage. It's been an amazing journey through the world of tech.
It has been.
And it's clear that things are just going to keep getting more and more advanced.
Yeah, so if we could leave our listeners with one thought,
Yeah.
It would be this. The future is being shaped right now, and AI is a big part of it. So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged in the conversation about how we want to shape that future.
That's a great message. Thanks for listening to Byte-Sized Tech, everyone. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more fun tech discussions.